Good morning. It is the start of a new week, which is great. I am going to first have you do this guess my rule for Desmos. That is going to be most of our day actually, is to do this rule. So you don't really need to take notes right now, more just go into student.desmos.com, input this code, and this is about a 5 to 10 minute activity so that you can see this whole input versus output idea, which is what's going to happen here. You can see this little 15, it's going to slide, it's going to pop out on the other side, and you are going to have to say what you think the rule was for it. Okay, so I'm going to kind of come down here so that you can also see this. We're going to be dealing with inputs and outputs. Today we're going to input a number like this 15. This is a function machine is what these are called. But if I put in the number 15, let's say even to here, okay, I plug in 15 for my input. The output is what I would get, and this would be my rule, like the 3 times 15 would be my rule. So 3 times 15 is 45. So my output would be 45 if I input 15. So that's kind of what you guys are doing today. I could do the same thing over here. This is actually an output. F of X is another way to see an output. So F of X is how we say this right here. And it means when I put in 15, so if I plug in 15 here and then I plug in a 15 here, I would do 15 plus 8, and then that would also be my output right here. And my output, it's the same thing as a Y. It's the same thing as my Y there. And we'll get more into that later. So I do want to show you what the function machines look like. You guys are seeing my process right now that I go through. Remember, I close it down, then I get back into it because I have it bookmarked at the right place for you. So that's probably the easiest way to do it. You guys are going to be exploring inputs and outputs today. Like the input was -1. The output was -4. The input was 0. The output is -1. So you're really trying to figure out, well, wait a minute, what's the rule? What could be the rule for this? Okay, so in this, the way that I would do it is I would see what this is. It looks like this is going up by 1 each time. The X's are going up by 1 because I go from -1 to 0, then 0 to 1, then 1 to 2. So it looks like those are going up by 1 each time. So what's happening with my output? Well, it's going for every one value that I go up here on my X's, it looks like this is going from -4 to -1. So it's going up 3 from -1 to 2. Yep, it's going up 3 from 2 to 5. Yep, I add 3. So it's going up by 3 each time. What we're going to see is we're actually going to see that ends up being 3 times X. So whatever I plug in, like if I plug in X here, so if I go 3 times my 0, I actually would get 0. So it doesn't really make sense to just leave it as 3X. Oh, but you know what? What about if I go -1? This is going to be my y-intercept when we talk about lines. If I go -1, because then I wasn't at 0, I'm now at -1. Does that work for every one of them? Well, let's see. Let's plug in 3. So that's what you're seeing down here. You're seeing this function machine where they've now plugged in 3. We should get 8. We should get 8 according to this input. Well, let's double check. When I plug in 3 into this machine, I have 3 times 3, which is 9, -1, which is 8. You'll see it says F of 3. That's F of X. It's okay if you don't know this form yet. Just understand that it pops out as an 8 on this side. So this is showing this function machine right here. That is, you're going to practice a little bit with these function machines. In fact, if you look at the homework for tonight, let me see, I have it open here. I need to drag this down. I have the homework open here. It's saying, okay, on number 24, oops, sorry guys, just lost you. I'm trying to zoom in a little bit. Yeah, there we go. So it's saying when you plug in -9 to this X right here, well, we would get -9 times -9, which is 81, plus 3 is 84. What pops out the bottom here is 84. That's my output. You're going to do the same thing here. So you're going to see, well, what pops out of this? So that is a function machine. So what you're seeing in all of these is that concept of a function machine. You input a value, what's your output? You input a value, what's your output? On these bottom couple right here on number 1-82, it's a little bit more complicated because they give you the output and you kind of have to work backwards to figure out what the input was. My hint to you there is that if you take the -1 and you make it this right here, because if it's telling you f of x equals -1, then I can just substitute that in right here for -1 and then solve from there. That's the way that you'll do these problems right here. And that's all you have. You just have 4 quick problems where you're dealing with function machines. But before you do that, go ahead and get into student.desmos.com and do this activity. It populates so that I can see it, and you'll be awarded 5 points for doing this part of today's lesson. Good luck, and I'll see you tomorrow if you have any questions in the Zoom. I do have that optional Zoom.